Time for the Spy Files here on the Morning Line with Brodie Nickson. Brodie, good morning, mate. How was the weekend?
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Yes, it was a mixed weekend in regards to the racing. A bit frustrating. Namarian, we sent out on Bet's Friends. I thought it was home, and Cascadian over the top was too good. The evergreen veteran, but for Godolphin. But away from that, it was a very good weekend of racing.
Was super, wasn't it? It's only going to get bigger and better. I know you'd be looking forward to not only the championships, but also Stradbroke season right around the corner, you Queenslander, you. Righto, let's start off with the Trial Star, because the Trial Stars, if you've been following them, putting them in your black books, they've been firing up of recent times. What have you got for us this week, Brodie?
Yeah, Mark, I'm quite confident this horse has returned even better. It's an unbeaten galloper out of the Hawks team called Altivo. Now, if you remember, we highlighted this horse last week, but this piece of work was just too good to not highlight again. Leading this race is the Everest contender Overpass for Bourne Baker. Came out and contested some of the best races for the 4-year-olds in the spring just gone, including the Golden Eagle, and ran really well in the Hunter. Now, looking towards the back of the pack is Altivo and those Chautauqua Stilks. Just getting towards the outside, it didn't quite find too much clear room, but Altivo, it is by Wooten Bassett, so I'm not too sure about this siren stuff. He got out over 1,500 metres last preparation. That might be one for you, Mark, Wooten Bassett, but Altivo was just all over the heels late. A really strong piece of work. I'm really keen to find this horse. As mentioned, is unbeaten in 2 career starts, has done it on some really fast pace as well.
Bassett is a son of Ifrage, and he won a French Group 1 a few seasons ago, but he did a superb job, and Coolmore snapped him up very, very quickly when they could to use as an outcross sire. He's very good. He's produced the likes of Al Menzor, who's also doing a terrific job at stud, or has, over in New Zealand. We're seeing some of his stock come out and run really, really well. So I like that one, Brodie, Altivo. We move on now to the Hidden Trial.
And it comes through the same day as Altivo, Manhattans for the Widdop team. I love this piece of work. Now, Connections must have had a really good opinion to this horse nice and early. It's nom for the Sires and the Percy Sykes, so obviously won't be going to the Sires, but might still try get a run in the Percy Sykes. Doubt they'll get a run in the field, but you're looking at the horse in the lead on the fence in those grey and lime green silks. Now, she's a very large filly by Hellbent. As you'll see in a moment's time, a lot of these horses outside were starting to get ridden up late in the 800 metre heat. I love the way she maintained her action under a good grip as well from the right. It's just extended beautifully through the line. Brett Preble was aboard here, and I'm really keen to find this filly on debut.
Manhattan's Hellbent Heir Apparent. Looking forward to seeing that one, Brodie. That's a beauty. We'll keep an eye out for that one. Brad Widdop's team going very, very well at the moment. Good to see him with some young horses too. On to the Sharp Improver wearing the China Horse Club silks, Brodie.
Yeah, I had to rewatch this trial multiple times, Mark. This was some piece of work. Now, Bungerhut has returned at gelded this preparation, and it's chasing a very sharp sprinter in Passive Aggressive, who we saw come out and win the Challenge Stakes last start as well. Now, Passive Aggressive showed that speed we expected from her in the front, but Bungerhut, as you mentioned, in those China Horse Club silks, just settles a few lengths off the leader, but down the straight, he extended beautifully at this end of this 1,045 metre heat. His first trial was quite good, but as mentioned, 6 being gelded, this was a sensational piece of work. He contested Group 1 races last prep, wasn't up to this standard that he needed to be, but maybe the gelding operation will be the making of this horse. And as you mentioned, Mark, a few horses looking to go up to Queensland. I wouldn't be surprised if he is one.
And we have to keep an eye out on those horses, Brodie. Very important, especially with a view towards spring. We often see them so soon after that Queensland Carnival go and perform so well during the Spring Carnival in Melbourne and in Sydney. Now we move on to this 4-year-old mare who's very lightly raced, Brodie. I'm interested to see what you have to say about her.
Yeah, she's a very speedy mare, Mark. She went out on debut. It was $1.60 out to $2.50 and ran accordingly. She was slight disappointing there if you did take the shorts, but this piece of work by Welcome Gypsy, she settles fourth in those red and white silks just behind the speed. Now, there's a couple of fairly sharp horses in front. Gundy Bridge has come out and stamped itself as a leading Stradbroke chance in a lightweight if it does go up to Queensland. Surf Dancer and Omni Man run first and third in this trial, but Welcome Gypsy was travelling really strongly behind the leaders. It was over 735 metres and she's trialled really strongly before, but it suggests off this piece of work behind some very sharp gallopers that a maiden, maybe over the 900 metres or 1,000, will be well up this mare's range.
Lovely, Brodie. We'll be watching out for Welcome Gypsy. Love those older seasoned horses that are lightly raced. They often can pay us out very nicely. Moving on to an import now, Brodie. Fascinated to see what you've seen of him at the trials.
This was a really nice piece of work, Mark, and its first Australian hit out as well. Now, it leads them up on the fence here. That is Duke de Sessa for Dylan Gibbons. It comes here for the Mara and Eustace team, and as mentioned, this was its first hit out. It brings some fairly nice form lines. It was last seen winning the listed finale stakes in November. Now, I'm really keen to find this horse in its Australian debut as it cruises to the front just outside the lead. It really extends beautifully under Dylan Gibbons. It's a 4-year-old Entire by Alope de Vega out of Dark Crusader, as mentioned, for the Mara and Eustace team. The horse on the outside, Cliff Sart, brought a last start group placing and race fitness this trial, but Duke de Sessa just held it so easily through the line. Cliff Sart came out and ran on Saturday, but that was some piece of work by the European import.
6 lengths off them in a Group 1 Irish 2,000 guineas. Some very, very nice form lines as Brodie has outlined there. Duke de Sessa. Moving on now, mate, to the midweek marble. This is the one we love to follow you in with, especially for a bet closer to us in terms of time. What have you got for us here, mate?
It was scratched from a race last week at Randwick Kensington Track, and it goes around at Kembla Grange on Tuesday, and that's Lipscani we speak of. Now, this horse midfield with the light blue and the black silks get towards the outside. Was given a quiet piece of work, but was really strong through the line. It's $4 in a fairly open market with the tab there for Tuesday's race. Now, I've just seen it's also been accepted to run at Warwick Farm on Wednesday in race 2, where it's drawn gate 3. No jockey engaged just yet, but that's early stages. But we highlighted this horse last week as a sharp improver. It had absolutely no luck on debut. Missed the kick then, was forced to settle back last on the fence in a very slowly run race. I love the fact they've gone back to the trials in between runs. Its manners looks much better through the line, and $4 as we bring up the market for that race on Tuesday. Lipscani. Salicel has trialled well as well. $4.20 on the next line of betting ahead of I Am Jade. But Lipscani, not too sure where they go this week, but I'm very keen to find.
Take us through the spy files for this week, Brodie. I think you might have found a couple of nice ones, in particular that import, Duke de Sessa. We'll be watching for him.
Just recapping our horses, the 6 horses for the Spy Files this week, kicking off with the unbeaten Altivo as the trial star for the Hawks operation. Very keen to find this horse, as mentioned, has won between the 1250 and the 1500 metres, and is a really nice piece of work behind a very sharp sprinter in Overpass. Manhattan's trialled really well, a very large filly for the Widdop team, and has been nom for a couple of very good races for the juveniles as well, so maybe another one they might look to take up to Queensland. Bunga Hutt returned gelded. Fantastic piece of work for the Freedman team. As we bring up the next page, Welcome Gypsy, an older mare, trialled really well behind the likes of Gundy Bridge, so very keen to find her. I'd love to see a trial over the 900 or 1,000 just to get a gauge of her over a longer distance, but it was a very sharp piece of work by a maiden horse. Duke de Sessa, as you mentioned, Mark, for the Mara and Eustace team, a fantastic piece of work by the stayer. Keen to see it makes its Australian debut. And Lipscani, the midweek marble, also accepted to run on Wednesday, so just keep an eye on your tab app there.
Brodie, Manhattan's in the Percy Sykes Stakes is $301 a peanut, perhaps worthwhile?
Oh, I couldn't do it. Mark, but I couldn't blame you if you did.
I think I'll be having my $2.50 each way on Manhattan's at 300 to 1. Very, very nice trial, and just has to make the field first and foremost, but certainly a horse to watch moving forward. Brodie, we're not far away from the championships. Before we let you go, mate, I have to ask, is there a race or a horse in particular that you're most looking forward to? I know for me personally, this first weekend, it's the Doncaster Mile. It's one of my favourite races, and I'd love to see Mr. Brightside go back to back just for that sense of history and romance. Looking forward to anything, mate?
I'm really looking forward to Godzilla go around in the size. I've been keen on this horse since its first trials before it ran up in Queensland. I thought its first up run behind Shinzo. Of course, the Golden Slipper winner was outstanding. We saw it very hard to make ground that day, and a lot of the times people came out and said they potted the race compared it to the fillies because they didn't run anywhere near the time. But as we saw that day, it was hard to make ground, and Godzilla only really got the chance to extend in the last few metres. So very keen to see that horse. I think he'll eat up 1,400 metres and beyond. He might be another horse that's set for the JJ Atkins later on in the winter. But coming up on Wednesday as well, very keen to find Trition for the Godolphin team. We highlighted this horse about a month ago. It's raining here in Sydney at the moment, so we might get the wet ground it doesn't mind, but very keen to find that horse early on Wednesday. But Godzilla and the size mark. And talking about the Doncaster, what sort of race that will be? It looks sensational.
Yeah, brilliant. The Star Doncaster for 2023 we're looking forward to, along with the TJ, of course, the Derby, the list goes on. But Godzilla, $15 in the size if you want to follow Brodie in. And you certainly can through Bet's friends under the Spy Files. Brodie's looking after that column sensationally well, finding us a stack of early winners as well as winners on the day and just prior. Brodie, thanks as always, mate.
Thank you, Mark.
Brodie Nickson on the Spy Files. We'll be back here on the morning line. Live racing still to come.